real life. So yeah, my name is Saurabh. I'm based in Sydney, Australia. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I would love to know a bit about your background. Where you come from, and how your stories, how you're inspired for your stories. What your inspirations are.
Uh, I've been doing this for quite a while now. Started getting published like in the 90s through Fantagraphics, Innovation, Malibu, some of the companies, some of the smaller independent companies at that time. And kept working through that, for quite a while. I kind of took about a 5-year break, I think around the early 2000s. And then I started coming back and currently I do a lot of self-publishing. I publish under my own imprint, Diebold Comics. But I'm also I've done some work with, there was a company called Insane Comics. I did a series with them. I just had, actually just came out this month or this week was A Girl and Her Dog from It's Alive Comics. I just went to my comic book store and seen it on the rack. So that was kind of nice. And I'm doing with Antarctica Press, who they've been around since like the early 80s or the mid 80s. They published like Ninja High School and different books like that. I'm doing in December. I have a book coming out from them called 2 Tons of Fury, which is bringing back 2 public domain characters, Herbie and Fat Man, the Human Flying Saucer.
Oh
And we
wow!
put them in we put them in a comic together, and it's a fun, silly comic, and it's a lot of fun. That's what we tried to do. The artist and I. The artist on that is Larry Gidry, and we just tried to have a lot of fun with it, and that's exactly what we did. Because a lot of my comics are, a lot more like horror or maybe not as just silly as this one is, and it was kind of nice writing something like that. So that's coming out in December. I think it comes out in the catalog next month.
That's awesome.
Through Antarctica Press, and then I've always got my own stuff I'm still doing through Diebold. Getting ready to do a Kickstarter for Alma, which is a comic I published a few months ago, and we've been selling through like conventions and stuff. So I'm trying to get it to the next level, and working on a Kickstarter with that right now. I was just working on that right before this. In fact, trying to get it ready. It's my first Kickstarter, and it's kind of scary,
It
getting it all
is. It
together.
is. It is quite intimidating to
Hopefully,
do a full Kickstarter end to end. I've done it before, and
yeah.
I know how it is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I'm so worried that, I've heard so many stories about it, how hard it is. And, it's just, I've got a full-time job, and I'm hoping I can, manage to keep this Kickstarter going and work and get everything else done and not let it fail, because hoping to get this like that to the next level. And we're already working on the second issue of Alma. And I've already got that script, and we're working on the artist Hernan Gonzalez is drawing it right now, and I'm already working on the third issue. So we kind of like to make that a continuing thing for as long as we can. So, and I've always got I just got my second issue of my comic Robot Sex just came in from the printer
Nice.
earlier this week. It's not as X-rated as it sounds. I always say it's lots of robots and no sex. But it's a title that, especially at conventions, it's a title that attracts a lot of attention. People see that name and they grab for it, and they kind of
Yeah, yeah. Clickbait, clickbait. I know, I know. It's actually quite fun. It's a fun read. I read all of your work. Thank you so much for sharing. That was really, really generous of you. Um, uh, One of the things that I actually loved about all your books is they have a strong female character in the lead, and obviously the black and white style is very different. It's do you, are these the copies that you're in production, or the ones that you sent me, or do they have coloring and other things as well?
No, they are black and white. I've done some color comics. I did a comic, 4 issues of a comic called Ayla, uh, and that was in color.
Yeah.
And the reason for the black and white, I'll be honest, is just economics. It's a lot cheaper to print a black and white comic, but I do like black and white. A lot of my early work back in the 90s, back in that, I kind of started publishing during when they had what they call the black and white boom, when a lot of companies were coming out and publishing. At that time, almost there was 1 million comic companies, publishers out there, and they printed anything almost. And a lot of it was in black and white. But black and whites, I like the medium. It's
Mm,
like Alma, I think, is wonderful in black and white.
I
Hernan's
agree.
artwork really good in it. So so it's got advantages and disadvantages, but it is a lot less expensive to publish in black and white. So that's the main reason I've kind of now 2 Tons of Fury, which we have coming out through Antarctica, is going to be in color because it's
Mm,
just one of those old silly superhero comics that I didn't think would look as good in black and white as it did in color. It really kind of called out for color.
yeah,
And then Robot Sex Roman's art really, I think the black and white really kind of makes it look good
it
too.
does. It does. In fact, like when I started reading Alba, I felt like I don't know if it will work or not, but by the end, it did work for me really well. Even Robot Sex, for that matter, both issues worked really well in black and white, and I think it suited the choice suited that story really well. So kudos to you. It's in
I'm
this
glad to hear it. Like I said, we kind of did it because we had to, but I think it also works out really well too. Kind of the stories kind of work, well in that medium.
exactly. Oh, that flying shark in Alma is amazing. Those monsters and
I
uh,
tried to think of, what I was doing. I was like, what could be really scary but really kind of weird at the same time? And I thought a flying shark kind of fits both of that category. One of my I think inspirations is Steve Gerber, who
mm,
created Howard the Duck, Marvel Comics, and
yeah,
he did Defenders and a lot of other comics for Marvel, and he always had that kind of weird sensibility. Even in like the Defenders, which was a superhero comic, he always
yeah,
had those kind of offbeat weird characters in it. And a lot of what I write, I always kind of throw in, even my more serious books, I throw in something a little weird, a little, kind of off kilter kind of. And it just, I think a lot of that I get from Steve Gerber. It's like, Robot Sex, I'm throwing everything in. And then
yeah,
the second issue is even weirder because I have dinosaurs in it. I've got flying monkeys. I've got
yeah.
like, I kind of throw, it's, Robot Sex, I've just kind of anything that comes to me, I feel like I could put into the comic.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That was amazing. Like flying monkey bats and talking lips and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. If you can't go crazy on comics, then where can you go crazy? Come on, these are comics is the
Exactly.
medium
Yeah.
where you have to go crazy. So,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I totally wholeheartedly agree on that. I was working with this editor on one of my books, and my character was Kerberos, and Kerberos was stalking, and the editor was like, "Why is Kerberos stalking? It's totally bizarre." And I'm like, "Come on, it's comics. You can do
Yeah.
anything here."
Yeah. Yeah. I always feel like it's better to take that chance and maybe fall than not take that chance at all. I mean, not everything may work, but when it does work, it really it's cool.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. But there are a lot of common themes in your books, I see. Like you always have a preface and a postscript, and like you write like really heartfelt, um uh, you know uh in a couple of cases you've written eulogies about your friends, and like and about a monologue about your mother, and it was really lovely to read. So that makes me feel that some of these stories are really heartfelt and they are very personal to you. Does that
Yeah.
is that true?
Yes, I think so. Alma is especially because I came up with the character first. The idea of an older woman, getting these powers, and then I started thinking, okay, what am I going to name her? And then it kind of hit me. I was like, because Alma's my mom's name, And, it's like,
Wow.
who's the strongest woman that I know? My mom is like, is so strong, and, she's been through so much that I was like, this name just fits her perfect, this character. And it's, the ghost of her husband in the book, Frank, that's my dad's name. So it's,
Wow.
you know, a lot of it I'm kind of putting in like a little personal touches, little things like that that just mean a lot to me. And it's almost really it's just become just knowing it's named after my mom. My brother and I used to always joke that my mom's going to outlast all of us because she it's 70, she's 85 right now. When she was in her 70s, she'd be out in her yard with machete cutting down branches and stuff. I mean,
Wow.
nothing. Now she's finally slowing down, finally, because she can't. I mean, she's getting to that age where she can't keep going like she was. But
Mm.
she was a force to be reckoned with. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like the idea. The forward in the book and the kind of make it personal and talk about what's going on. And I got that from some of the books back in the 90s, like Cerebus by Dave Sim. He used to put always like in the inside, in the inside front cover, he would always have like a little, I think he called a note from the publisher or the note from the president or something. And he would
Yeah.
always kind of talk about, either what was going on in his life or what, something behind the comic. And I always like those behind the scenes. And one of my favorite writers, prose writers, is Harlan Ellison. And
Wow.
he writes
Yeah.
short stories.
Yeah.
If you've read any books, his stories always have an introduction behind in front of it usually. And sometimes the introductions are longer than the stories. But he always talks about what's going on in his life or how he created this book or story. And I've always enjoyed reading those as much as the stories in a sense. So I always kind of wanted to get that same type of feeling when I started self-publishing my own stuff. I thought this is kind of cool. It gives a little face to a little behind the scenes look, besides just the story itself.
That's amazing. That's really good. And I think it always gives, when you share a part of you as a note to your readers, you always feel like readers always feel like the author's talking to them, and that gives them a very personal touch while reading the book. It also makes it all the more effective. I read the whole thing through and through, and when I was reading those stories, they did feel very genuine. Some of those characters felt very genuine because of that. Um, that quality kind of translates through the whole story after that as well. So it really helps.
Oh, good. Thank you. I'm glad it works. I'm glad it does, gives that impression. That's what I was trying for, just, and just, different little things like, I think in one of the issues I talk about Brian, my friend that passed away,
Yes.
and actually in the second issue of Robot Sex, I have to have another, because I have
Yeah.
another friend that just recently passed away, so it's, but it's, I like to just to share things with the reader, like you said, kind of gives that little connection between it.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing, there are a couple of things I actually noticed in Robot Sex was the setting was very Tatooine-like. It was very Star Warsy. I don't know, it was
Mm-hmm.
mix of the Star Wars and Mad Max. I don't know what your inspiration was there, but it felt a lot like that, like the first Star Wars, The New Hope. And instead of R2D2 and C3PO, we had Barney and Lavo. How do I pronounce the
Whoa,
name? Laveau.
whoa,
Laveau. Yeah,
yeah,
we have
yeah,
Barney and Laveau walking through a desert and going about their lives. It felt a lot
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, and I probably had a little behind because Star Wars, I remember watching it when it first came out, and it's always been kind of an inspiration for me. But I wanted that, especially in the beginning, it's like they're in the middle of the desert, and then that marching band just goes right past it. Just really something offbeat, and just like when you're once you start reading, you realize this is not going to be a normal comic.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. And you know that jazz funeral thing that happens in the issue one, it kind of reminded me. I don't know if you're aware that there are a few cultures in the world that actually do that. Uh, they really celebrate, uh, not exactly celebrate, but they want their loved ones to go out
Mhm.
uh, uh, in a party, and they want them to have a good afterlife. So they say that we're celebrating this because we want you to have a good time wherever you are, and even after you have passed away. So there are cultures in the world. I know Tamil culture in India, they do that a lot. And yeah.
I'm actually right outside of New Orleans, and New Orleans is famous for the jazz funerals.
Right.
They do that a lot. So that's kind of where I got the inspiration from that from.
That's amazing. I really love that bit, to be honest. The other thing I actually found out was I really like the speech bubble expression thing that you did with Barney. It was so unique and so peculiar. I really loved it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I thought about that I've had that idea for a while, and I didn't know if I could make it work. If it's like it's because it's hard to think of a drawing or a pictogram to put in his speech balloon that conveys what he needs to convey sometimes. Because I don't want to I don't fill it up. It's usually just one or two little uh, pictures in there, but it gives him a very unique uh, speech pattern.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It also adds a very nice dimension to the character itself. Like it adds a layer of what do you say? Like, it adds expression to the character. So as soon as you have that, you humanize that character. So it makes it all the more relatable because they have feelings and they have expressions. So and yeah, and they're expressing it. So yeah, loved it. So good.
Thank you.
I'm surprised you're not more famous, John. Come on.
I wish. I'm plugging away. I feel like in the last few years I've made a lot more strides than I have in a while. It's like I'm hoping this Kickstarter does well enough to kind of pushes me to the next Alma, gets some more readers out there, and even though I'm doing my own imprint, Diebold Comics, I'm still looking for other publishers too. I'm more than like I'm working with Antarctica Press. They're going to publish a sequel to Two Tons of Fury. Also doing a few other. They're actually going to publish Robot Sex too.
Oh,
I was just
wow.
talking to Ben, publisher, and they want to publish Robot Sex also. So that's going to be kind of cool. So because they're actually in Diamond, the Diamond catalog, through the Diamond distributors, which will put a lot more eyes on it than I can get. Because right now, the only people that see it are people mainly if I go to a convention or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I don't go through Diamond. I'm not a big enough publisher to get in there. And going through Antarctica is going to get a lot more people to see it. And even if just every comic shop just ordered one or two copies, it's going to be a lot more copies than I could sell, or even half of them just order it.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing with Diamond is they have the distribution, the network nobody has. Like they could just put those books to like somewhere on the other side of the world. Like I can get it in a store in Australia or somewhere else as well. So yeah.
I don't even really think about the international side of it. I'm just thinking of the 3,000 shops in the U.S. But you're right. That's even worldwide that can get that book out. That I could never make that on my own. It
Yeah.
would never make it out.
Well, I hope we are able to do that because I'm trying my best to build a distribution network for indie comics so that indie people are able to distribute it themselves and not go through the big catalog owners, so that we break
Well, and
some
I
of
think
them.
that's
So
something that's really neat because even Diamond does have some of the smaller indies in it, but like I did It's Alive. The girl and her dog went through, and It's Alive goes through Diamond, but they're like on page 600 of the catalog or something. All those indie books so far back in the catalog that really how many shops even go back that far? You look through your Marvel,
exactly.
your DC, your Image, your all your big brands, and by the time you get to a certain point you're like, okay, I don't I've spent all my money, I don't have any more money to spend on this last group
Yeah.
of
Exactly. And that's not just the case with offline catalogs. It's even true for some place like Amazon, where, like Comixology. If you upload your books on Comixology, you might
Mhm.
get discovered by some of the crowd or your existing fan base, but it's extremely hard to get discovered by newer people. And like all uh, especially like if you have competition against Marvel or DC or Boom or Image Comics, or yeah.
Oh yeah, I do my I've been putting all my comics on a site called Global Comics.
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
digital and they've been Alma just reached over 1,000 views, and I just put I've some of them I've put on there for free, like Alma I've been pushing for free, and I've been pushing a lot on Twitter and through Facebook, and it's reached over 1,000. And I just put Robot Sex up there for free, the first issue,
That's
and
awesome.
it's only been up there for about maybe 3 or 4 days, I think, and it's already about 1,000 views. So I figure if people read it and see it, they may be more inclined to buy the physical copy, or maybe buy the next issue in the digital version of it or something. But
Yeah.
just kind of trying to get it out there for people to see, and then I'll worry about them buying it. If I can get them to
Yeah.
see it and like it first, then I'll worry about maybe getting it in their hands.
That's true. That's true. No, I personally always advise all the creators that even with digital, don't take it too lightly, because digital is quite big. That's how you reach a bigger market. Even if you're doing print, digital is where obviously future is at. So don't undersell your digital presence. Don't undersell your digital books as well. You can you should give previews, the trailers and previews of your books, but always charge money for your work, man. I mean, you deserve it. You've worked hard for creating all those. You and your artist have worked really hard to create your books. You've put your heart and soul in them. So yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice
But
to make at least enough money to pay back what I spent on them.
absolutely. No, that's yeah. We're also building like a marketplace where you can come and sell your indie books. It's exclusive to indie comics. We're saying deliberately no to all the mainstream books and mainstream comics here. It's a corner of the internet that's dedicated to all the indie creators. um and we want people like you, people who want to reach out to a new market and sell their books globally,
Yeah,
because these
yeah.
yeah, some of your stories cut across the cultures. Anybody on the other side of the world can relate to them and buy them, so yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, those Asimov laws in there, they come out by a surprise, right? In Robot Sex.
Yeah, and I was a big fan of Isaac Asimov back when I was
Yeah.
younger. I read pretty much everything that he wrote, and who, the three laws of robotics is like kind of passed off from just him into everything now.
Yeah. Yeah. I yeah, I love always I always love finding pop culture things
Mhm.
in various comics and books and stuff, all the pop culture references. That's why I love like indie creators, because indie creators always have these lovely little nibbles of pop culture in them,
Mhm.
and I think they're the custodians of pop culture, because like 500 years from now, somebody's going to read
Yeah.
that book and say, I know that reference. But yeah, I had a great time reading your books, and
Thank you very much. It's always nice to hear.
cool. But you did mention about some of your upcoming Kickstarter. Do link to some of them. We'll put them in the links in the
Okay.
video, and also share them on Twitter and
I haven't
everywhere else.
started it yet. We're still working on getting it up, but we're gonna do a Kickstarter for Alma One. We're gonna redo it. I have a new Hernan Public did a new cover for it, and then I'm going to have some variant covers by some different artists. But I think, so we're gonna fill the comic out with the first issue, and then some, maybe some letters and some pinups for some people and stuff like that, and hopefully that'll get a little more people out to see it. Just like I said, I just got the second issue of Robot Sex, from the printer, so I'll have that at the next convention I go to. Working with a new studio called Exile Studios that just started, and got some really cool stuff coming out. There's a new book I'm working with called The Magpie. It's kind of a superhero horror type comic in a sense. Working on that and a few other titles with some of the artists at Exile Studios, which I'm kind of excited about some of the stuff coming out. They've got some really good people working there. So, and then like I said, next issue of Robot Sex, next issue of Alma. I've got an idea for a comic I just had the other day that's really weird, and I don't know where it's going to go, but it keeps hitting me every time I go to lay down to sleep. I kind of think about it, so I was like, all right, I got to at least try to do something with it and see where it goes.
Yeah.
And I've got the we're doing a sequel to 2 Tons of Fury, with Herbie and Fat Man. And I think we're going to put in some other public domain characters like Atomic Mouse and a few other things. And then we've got like couple in 2 Tons of Fury. We have a version of Captain Marvel that probably nobody remembers, and it's not published by DC or Marvel. It was I forgot who the publisher was now. I can never remember their name, but it was he's an android, and he yells split, and his body flies apart.
Wow.
He's I think he has like maybe 5 or 6 issues.
Wow.
And you can't use his name on the cover or anything because it's Captain Marvel, but we have him in 2 Tons of Fury.
That's amazing.
We have another character called Billy Bounce, who I call the first superhero, because he was a newspaper strip that came out in 1902.
Wow.
And he was a kid that has this suit that blows up, kind of like Bouncing Boy from the Legion of Superheroes, and he bounces all around and everything. So he's kind of cool.
That's so good. That sounds amazing. I really love some of the, like, that's really creative, right? And some of the public domain characters are amazing because you can reinvent them in your own little way, and they're always like like a fresh start for them. So that's amazing. Have you reinvented some of these characters as well in it's called 2000 Tons of Fury, you said?
2 Tons of Fury, yeah.
2 Tons of Fury.
All the characters.
I'm
that's
sorry.
fine. All the characters in 2 Tons of Fury are public domain characters. Herbie was published in the 60s. Fat Man the Human Flying Saucer. Every character in the book, I think, except one, is somebody from the public domain. So we just took them and kind of recreated them in a sense. But we stayed pretty along their original versions, because Herbie and Fat Man were both of those comics are kind of, they don't
popular.
take themselves as and Herbie is very, kind of got that cult status. A lot of people that like Herbie really like Herbie. So, and Herbie was a hard character to write for because he has a very unique speech pattern. So, and we're gonna see how that does. I'm hoping that does really. I'm hoping that attracts some of those Herbie fans.
Yeah.
And some of the Fat Man fans. I don't know how many Fat Man fans are out there, but Herbie fans, I think there's we've already sent it out to like a couple Facebook groups, that are like, there's a Facebook group dedicated just to Herbie.
Yeah.
And they like it. So, that's a good sign, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. This actually reminds me of a comic I picked up on Free Comic Book Day. I go there every year with my daughter, and we pick up loads of comic books there from there. One of the books I picked up from there was an edition of 2080, Dread's 2080.
Yes.
And it had a lot of short stories, So one of the short stories was called Super Bean. It was about
Oh,
a bean from a bean factory getting superpowers. It was amazing. It was so good. He's an
uh,
office worker by day and Super Bean by night. Just
uh,
that office worker just takes off his skin mask and then becomes Super Bean, which is it's super funny. Yeah, and eventually dies in a bean factory accident. He gets gets pushed into a bean grinder and then then canned. Spoilers. But yeah, it was so much fun to read. Like I would love some of those stories, you know, like
oh yeah,
uh
some of those stories like that, some of those really offbeat stories are really fun.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Awesome. No, we're reaching about time. I think we normally close at 30 minutes mark. But
Okay.
it's great having you. Do link all put all your links in. Send all your links to me. I'll put it in the comments. In the description section, so people can actually click and buy your stuff. You know, they can see your profile and you know. Yeah, I want more people to read your stuff, John. It's really good.
Thank you. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this conversation. Thank you.
No worries at all.